There's clearly some uncertainties that still needs to be sorted out. We have the uncertainty related to the Trump presidency and what impact that may have on tariffs, and with that also on Chinese economic outlook. So yeah, plenty of uncertainty still as we move into 25. But generally, even though we've had this uncertainty, commodity prices has been holding up reasonably well. We've seen that both in energy and in industrial metals, and we don't anticipate much weakness from here.
Considering you touched on the potential return to Trump-era tariffs, which markets, Ollie, do you think would be most impacted by such a move, and how could it ripple through global supply chains?
Well, so far the first focus is always industrial metals, given the high percentage of its usage in China. But there's probably going to be some divergence, I would say, because there's still going to be focus on the electrification, which will impact positively demand for copper and aluminium. Steel, iron ore may be struggling somewhat, but it's first and foremost the industrial metals. But then precious metals could also play its part, because tariffs carries the risk of high inflation, and that has been also been one of the supporting anchors for gold here in the last few months.
Okay, allow me to touch on the energy transition accelerating globally. What role will critical minerals like lithium and copper play in 2025? And are there any risks to supply chains that could significantly influence their prices?
Well, lithium is currently suffering from oversupply, and also a slowdown in the demand growth towards batteries. We reached a little bit of a saturation point at this stage, with a lot of production coming out of China, but generally the low price is probably also going to be the eventual cure for the low price, because it will lead to some restraint from producers. So, but generally the outlook for electrification will continue to underpin demand in the coming years. Copper is one where we're both looking at the supply, and demand. Supply potentially in the coming years is expected to be somewhat challenged by mining companies balking at the long process it takes to get mining to get new founds into the market, and that potentially could also impact prices. But we are generally seeing the electrification that requires a lot of infrastructure, not only towards batteries, but also the whole AI rollout, which will impact the demand for power around the world.
For sure, want to stop on energy and oil. But before that, since we're talking metals, gold has been a standout performer in 2024, driven largely by central bank demand. Do you see this trend continuing in 2025? As in, could central banks remain dominant players in gold markets?
Gold is the central bank demand is we have to face it, a result of a world that's becoming somewhat more uncertain, and that uncertainty, I think, will continue to drive demand from central banks who wants to reduce their dependency on the dollar. But also the whole debt situation is a key focus. We have seen that so far this year, that investors are worried about the increased debt burden that we are seeing in some of the major economies, especially the US. So that will be a focus. Central banks will be a focus. And then obviously also the geopolitical risk that still that remains unsolved as we head towards 25, both in the Middle East, but also in Russia, Ukraine.
Of course, and could the renewed interest in crypto following Donald Trump winning the US elections draw investors away from gold, in your opinion?
I think it appeals to two different types of investors. If you are a family office and you are looking after or high net worth individuals and you want to preserve wealth for the future generation, crypto is still in its infancy, and we have seen these big corrections, 30-40% corrections happens on a regular basis, and that just simply I don't think that appeals to a normal or regular investor in gold who likes the lower volatility. So I think these two products can coexist side by side. I don't think one will necessarily cannibalize the other.